Good evening, welcome to the Buck Stops here. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the program this evening, another major bout of violence in Kashmir. A mob surrounds an army post in Kupwara. Security forces open fire. A class 11 student is killed. The Kashmir Valley has been simmering ever since 4 people were killed in Handwara earlier, again in clashes with security forces. The situation is very tense. On the show tonight, a student is killed in firing and Kashmir erupts. Is the Mehbooba Mufti government equal to this challenge? Next on the show tonight, it's back, odd even part 2, alternate day car use in the national capital. And the government is serious, issuing 500 challans to violators in the first 5 hours alone. Each challan a cool 2,000 rupees. But the larger question is this: is odd even the solution to the national capital's air pollution crisis? The Transport Minister Gopal Rai will be joining us on the show. But first, our top story: a mob has surrounded an army post in Kupwara. They did this sometime back. In fact, security forces opened fire. A class 11 student was killed. The Kashmir Valley continues to simmer. All right, let's just take a look. These are the latest images that we are getting from Kashmir. This took place a little while earlier on. 7 people have been injured in this particular incident, and 1 person, a class 11 student, has died. This situation is simmering now. Is it spiraling somewhat out of control? Joining us, Arun Gupta, the spokesperson of the Jammu and Kashmir BJP, General Shankar Roy Chaudhary, former army chief, Aga Ruhullah, chief spokesperson of the Jammu and Kashmir National Conference, Wahidur Rahman, spokesperson of the PDP, and Shabnam Lone, the advocate from the Supreme Court. Thank you all very much for joining us. Mr. Gupta, let me come to you first. Are you now worried that this is a situation that is continuing to repeat itself? Security forces being geared out from all sides. When there are mobs of 100 odd people, they have to open fire. When they open fire, people die.
Yes, you know, this situation, what is being developing for the last few days, it's a very serious situation. I agree with you. And first of all, let me pay my respectful condolences to the families who have lost their family members. It's a very sad situation. But now there are 3 dimensions to the whole this situation. One is, there's a very the girl who gave the remarks and who gave that army is not involved in the whole thing, and still the people who are supporting the Pakistan-based masters, who are supporting those people who are, you know, not a part of this country, they are the one who always find a situation to create the situation, and accordingly they keep on exploiting the situation. And the very important point which I would like to emphasize
Security
here today,
forces, in your opinion, use
also
disproportionate force.
Security forces also,
have
that
they
is what I'm
used
trying to come to.
Yes.
This is what I'm trying to say. The security forces also really have to relook into the whole thing, whether using a lethal weapon is necessary to control the mob, or they can shift to the non-lethal system, because there are lot of non-lethal systems which are available and which can control the mob. This, I think we need to relook on this thing very seriously on this part.
General Shankar Roy Chaudhary, is that a feasible option for the army? We do not know who ultimately fired in this particular case. We do know that an army post in Kupwara had been surrounded, but we don't know if there were other forces along with the army. But should the army, in situations like what we have seen in Kupwara and Handwara, be equipped with, say, rubber bullets to prevent civilian casualties?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. The army has got its own weapons. It's not meant for controlling crowds. The crowd control has to be done by the local police, which they are doing, by the way. Jammu and Kashmir police is doing that reasonably well. And they have the so-called non-lethal weapons like tear gas and lathis and all that. This is certainly not the job of the army. And the army carries out its own, army has to be there for operational reasons. And the army, if attacked, goes by the certain set guidelines. One of them is minimum force. And the army always acts on this principle. And here in Handwara and Natusa, the two places where the incidents took place, they are separated by quite a few miles.
Yes.
The army did act with maximum restraint when they were attacked. They used the minimum permissible force.
Aga Ruhullah, what we are also being told is that in the earlier incident which took place in Handwara, there was a teenager who was alleged to have been molested by the army. She ultimately came on record and said that she had not been molested. She has been put by the police in their custody along with her father. The fact is, she has not been allowed to be out of police custody now for several days. Is that the situation which is triggering what we are seeing today in Kupwara?
Are you speaking to me?
Mr. Ruhullah, go ahead.
Yes, that.
Okay.
Yes, that
Let
is
me
the,
say,
that is
whatever the reason was,
situation.
let's find that out later.
No, one moment,
my
sir.
question
I'm
is,
asking
does
this
that
question
justify,
to Aga Ruhullah. Aga Ruhullah, go ahead.
I mean to say, we can find that out later, but does that, my question is, does that justify the killing of as many as people as we have now? Security forces, be it police, be it CRPF, be it army, whomsoever, we need to hold them accountable. And my question is to the entire nation and to the media in general, which represents in the nation, is when is it that we start to side with the people of Jammu and Kashmir? Few days back, we saw an incident in NIT, and all the media in general and the nation in specific was up against the police of Jammu and Kashmir. Now we have the killings of innocent teenagers, innocent Jammu and Kashmir citizens, people who were killed by bullets of army, CRPF. I'm not going into that. When is it that we are going to see the nation siding itself with the people of Jammu and Kashmir, so that the people of Jammu and Kashmir do not feel alienated?
Do you endorse
the media, the nation?
Mr. Ruhullah, I need to understand your political.
As much concern.
Mr. Ruhullah, I've understood what you're saying.
As it was.
No, I've understood what you're saying, but you have to answer this question. It's a very basic question. Are you suggesting that it is okay for a mob to surround the armed forces and attack them?
Is it okay for an security personnel to kill an innocent person?
If you are attacked, do you not retain the right to self-defense?
A teenager. Absolutely. But
so that's what they were doing, or that's what they claimed they were doing.
How long and how much you give us blood-riddled bodies and then say that they have the right to defend themselves?
No, but
mobs can be dealt with. My question is entirely different.
Yeah.
Does not the nation of India feel that this is the moment that we side with the people of Jammu and Kashmir and hold these people accountable? Every time a Kashmiri gives his life, is a life lost.
But who is not
Indian?
holding people accountable?
Of India,
but who is not? The army was the first. The army immediately went on record in the first instance, even before the confession of this girl emerged, saying we are very sorry. We are going to inquire. If there is been disproportionate use of force, we apologize. Some would say it's strange that they actually apologized before the video of this girl came out. But General Roy Chaudhary, you had a point as well. Mr. Ruhullah, just a second, Mr. Ruhullah, the point he's mentioning is that when are people of India going to support or endorse what people on the ground are feeling? That's what he's asking. General, would you like to take that?
Before I come to that, let me express my sincerest regrets at the death of that schoolboy who was, I think, went for a very good batsman coming up. He had been for various coaching camps. He was hoping to play for India one day, and it is my very, very great regret, as indeed would be for the rest of India, that because it's a cricket mad nation, that a budding cricketer of great talent, who might have been, who knows what heights he would have reached, was killed. And that is my sincerest regret today when you are speaking to me.
Okay. But sir,
your second question was?
Sir, the second question is what he was actually raising. Basically saying, isn't it time, or when will it be time for people across the country to side with the people on the ground who are victims of the disproportionate use of force?
The use of force by the army, at least, is never disproportionate. The army follows strictly the principle of minimum force. The army follows strictly the principle of good faith. And
If
here too, if the army
four
has
to six
fired,
dead
they
bodies
have
is
used
not
minimum force.
disproportionate, I'm afraid then what it is?
What were the people doing? Did they attack an army post or not? Did they climb a wall and get into
Did
the
they have
army
guns in
post
their
and try
hand?
to set it on fire
Were
or
they
not?
firing bullets? Were they firing bullets?
But what else will they fire?
They were
If they are under attack, what else will they fire? Mr. Rulla, I completely
that's the problem.
appreciate your position
See,
when you
that's the
say that
problem.
people in India
That's the problem.
need to be sensitive to the sentiment on the
While-
ground.
yeah.
But I find it rather strange
Absolutely.
that you would suggest for even one moment that the army or the security forces don't have the right to defend themselves if under attack. I find that position
I find
rather
it equally
strange.
When you chase and go after the J&K police, when it came to in case of NIT for using a baton charge, and now you are taking side of security.
What does the
personnel
NIT
while
situation
they
have to do
killed the
with a
people?
law and order crisis where
This
a
is the
police or an
standard.
army
This-
post is
That has
surrounded
everything.
by a mob?
That has everything to do with this. This speaks of the double standards
Okay.
of the media in general and in particular the
No,
entire
the media
nation,
always gets the
which
wrong
has
end of
to
the stick, sir. We are
realize-
like that
which
only.
has to realize.
But we can
And-
keep
and my
plastering
question-
the media.
and
But
my
sir,
question-
let's get to the facts on the ground. I'll come to you in a moment. I also want to go across to Shabnam Lone. Shabnam, it's a very difficult situation. While I disagree with what was just mentioned now about disproportionate use of force, I do agree that there is a complete mismatch between the sense of alienation people feel on the ground and the position that security forces find themselves in as having to defend what we in India believe in, that is the idea of India itself. In a situation like this, in Jammu and Kashmir, how does anybody bring down tensions given what we've seen in the last couple of days?
Well, first of all, let me say I sincerely regret this abyss, this descent into this ultimate abyss of tragedy and trauma. This Friday has been a bloody Friday, and I regret the loss of life. Now, let me come to the question that you have addressed. Unfortunately, Kashmir's political parties again are playing petty politics. They do not realize that this is a very grim and grave situation. Sometimes they should realize that Kashmir will not be able to come out of it. It's reeling under this. Now, see the National Conference spokesperson. His whole focus has been on the army. Now, Vishnu, today, the news agency
Then
INA.
where should it be?
Naeem
Where should my focus be?
Naeem Ahmed Bhatt, the young budding cricketer of Handwara who was killed. Now his uncle has released a statement saying that I was walking with Naeem and this Kashmir JK policeman stopped us and he straight away fired at my nephew. I have the statement here. I am a lawyer. It is with me. The question is, none of these parties, they are not coming out against and supporting this uncle of Naeem. Now, when I say that he says the army has not killed him, now all of them have put the onus of me saying that I am supporting the army. I am supporting Naeem and I am supporting the truth. Now, he says, I do not know who killed the other two people. Now, what are these political parties doing? They want a blood and mayhem out there. Now, Mehbooba Mufti mishandled the situation in the early dawn. She was here in New Delhi. She had no business of being here and attending meetings. When 4 people died there, she should have flown in an aircraft and she should have been directing the show in Kashmir. What was she doing here?